Okay, wonderful. Let's go and take a look at the class. This is College Prep English for Homeschoolers, an excellence in education. We've just taken the test. Let's go through and grade it. And then we'll go through the rest of it together. Okay, number one. One of the most famous lines in all of Shakespeare. Who said it? You've all got it.
I
know.
know.
Got it.
I put down Feste, but I wasn't sure if that was. Yeah, I don't know.
It would be clear to everyone that you're putting us all on if you say Feste. Okay, so let's just try to grade them quickly. Number one, Orsino.
Yes.
Number two,
Lady Olivia.
Lady Olivia. Excellent. Number three,
Viola.
very good. Number four,
Viola.
yes, absolutely. Number five,
Malvolio.
excellent. Number six,
Andrew.
Toby.
Toby.
Ooh.
Two and.
But I was unsure about
Yeah,
that one.
True, yeah. Seven.
Number seven,
Malvolio.
nope.
No.
Anybody?
Who did I put?
Brian, you're very good at figuring out who's being addressed rather than
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
saying. Okay, so are you not mad indeed, or do you but counterfeit? Feste. Fool, I'll requite thee in the highest degree. I'll give you a hint, it's not the fool.
It's Malvolio.
Absolutely. Malvolio.
I thought so. I
dude.
couldn't. No. But I couldn't remember Feste talking about Malvolio.
She loves
And
me,
then-
sure, the cunning of her passion invites me in this churlish messenger. Number
Viola.
9,
Viola.
Viola.
Mhm.
Number 10, what thriftless sighs shall poor Olivia breathe?
Viola.
Viola.
Viola again. Come what may, I do adore thee so. Number 11.
Well, he was in the cell.
Antonio.
Antonio. Yeah, very good.
That's his name.
On a forgotten matter, we can hardly make distinction of our hands. 12.
Maria.
Right.
I forgot her name.
If you had said something like lady's maid to Olivia, that would be fine.
I put maid.
Good. That's fine.
Maybe.
Okay, and I smell a device.
Toby.
Sir Toby.
Toby. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
Malvolio.
Malvolio. Reading. It's actually Mariah's words.
Right.
Okay.
So who would it be?
You would say it's Malvolio. It's
Okay.
certainly under him when you read the
Okay.
play. But if you said Mariah, that's good too, because they are her words. Okay. Patience on a monument smiling at grief.
I'll say Sebastian.
Anybody?
Probably
This is
wrong.
one of the great
I couldn't
lines
get
in
this
the
one.
whole thing.
It's either Sir
Lady
Andrew
Olivia.
or Sebastian.
And died thy sister of her love. Who said what?
I said
Oh,
Sebastian.
Oh, I said Lady Olivia.
No.
Viola.
Viola.
Dang.
It is Viola speaking with Orsino. These two are in love with each other.
Mhm.
He just doesn't know that
Yeah,
that she's a girl.
Yeah.
Okay. Westward Ho.
That will- I picked Toby.
Let's keep going.
I
Viola.
It is Viola.
Viola. Yeah.
Yeah. There lies thy way, due west. Westward Ho is her response. Okay. Many a good hanging prevents a bad marriage.
Feste.
It has to be Feste. Feste is the fool. Feste is the one who is paid to say such things. Okay. Whoe'er I woo, Myself would be his wife.
Viola.
Yeah,
Viola.
Yep.
Excellent. Sir Toby will be sworn that I am no fox, but he will not pass his word for tuppence that you are no fool.
Malvolio.
Feste.
Feste.
Because
To
he's,
Malvolio.
I remember that.
Yeah.
We're
That's what I was
picking up
thinking.
the recipient of these barbs more easily than the speaker. Even so quickly may one catch the plague.
Olivia.
Olivia.
And she's saying that about her
Okay,
love for
excellent. I thought we'd get 100%. We did, didn't we?
No.
Missed two.
Half.
Yeah.
Okay,
Little over
these
half.
are harder because, well, some of the characters are so central. An eternal bond of love. What has
Wait,
passed
I don't
between
think we.
these two?
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
I didn't think we put these down yet.
Yeah, we haven't.
Yeah, we need to bring them down.
Yeah, all you had to do was watch the video from last week, you know.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, eternal bond of love, that's the priest. Okay, this one is
Are
Orsino's
we-
servant, I believe it's Valentine, who says that one. An icicle on a Dutchman's beard.
I remember that. That's
Go ahead. That's right.
the
Yes, keep going.
Festive.
no, not Feste.
That's
Well,
okay.
anyways, it's the male servant. I would say like
Fabian.
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 Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure.
Absolutely.
I know a guy named Fabian.
You know, Fabian was a popular TV personality during the 50s and 60s, I think, but older. Too old for you folks. Okay, direct thy. I am not what I am. What a wonderful. Absolutely. The sweet
Yeah.
Roman hand.
This Malvolio.
Malvolio, right? Talking about the
The letter.
handwriting in the letter. Direct thy feet where thou and I henceforth may never meet.
Direct.
Was that Orsino?
It is indeed.
Yes.
It is indeed. And it's a wonderful line to remember. I mean, use that on the playground. Okay, by swaggering could I never thrive. This is the tricky one, the really tricky one. And you all know the answer to it.
I'm thinking festive.
It's in the song. It's in the song at the end.
So
Who
it's
sings the song at the end?
Thor Feste.
Festive. Yeah, it's the next.
Feste.
Willow cabin at thy gate, and call upon my soul within the house.
Viola.
Very good.
Mhm.
One Sir Topaz.
Toby. Wait, no. Toby or Malvolio, I think. I would say
Festive. Yeah, that's
It is
festive
festive.
again, right? Yeah.
It is
That's
festive.
good.
I
It's
thought
Feste
Feste was
recalling it and talking about it afterwards when he's talking to
Oh.
Malvolio and said, I was one in this charade. Okay. And who said, still you keep to the windy side of the law.
Mm. Fabian.
Fabian again. Very excellent, excellent. Okay, now these are all the tricky ones, and you know the answers to these ones. We'll meet at the Elephant.
that's a
It's the
bar
inn,
or
the
a
inn,
pub.
The inn.
because that's where they're
Okay.
seeking lodgings. And what she was a
uh,
shipwreck. You got it last
Adriatic.
time. Adriatic. Okay.
They didn't mention that yet.
Okay. And who had a mole on his brow?
Sebastian.
Violet.
The elder Sebastian. the father,
That's it,
right?
yeah.
Who's named Sebastian
And
as well?
whose deaths are mentioned in the play.
The brothers in the beginning.
Yeah.
Brothers in the beginning and then.
The brother
and then
and the father.
Yeah.
And the
The
father.
father,
Both
yeah.
of them died on the ship,
Sebastian.
Right.
supposedly.
And who is Great Capulet?
the
horse.
horse of Sir Andrew.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. You folks really have it down fairly well, I think. Okay, why don't you go ahead and put your names on these things, and I'll throw them in the hopper here and we'll go on to more interesting things. Go ahead and add up your totals at the top. Okay, here's our agenda for this week. We have a number of projects to go through, so let's go ahead and look straight at that. We started with our test and our test on 12th night, and we decided to, I believe, we decided through consensus to look at Romeo and Juliet next. Although Hamlet, of course, is waiting in the wings to come on. So let's think about that. Romeo and Juliet, of course, many of you have probably seen one version or another of it. Who has?
I have a while ago. But
Yeah, it was a while ago.
yeah,
Okay, and what version?
I can't really remember.
Remember anything about it at all?
I haven't
I
seen
just
it.
remember like the basics. Not,
Yeah.
I don't remember like the name.
So many of these are given modern settings or different settings than their original when they make them into a film. About half of them, I suppose. So the original, if they're trying to copy the original, then they will be setting it in Elizabethan costume, and they'll try to make it look as though it's actually taking place in Verona. But there are others that take place in totally different places. Now, those who've seen don't ring any bells. You can't tell me anything about who was in them or where they took place.
I remember I've seen two. One was like set in a modern time, where it was kind of like between these two gangs.
Okay,
And
okay,
the
I
other
know the
was
one
the
you
actual
mean.
I
Elizabethan
think I saw
one.
that one too.
Yeah,
It retained the original language.
yeah, but it was still set in a modern time.
Right, and when subjected to analysis, you have to conclude that it's not appropriate, or at least it's not appropriate for our classes here at EIE.
Yeah.
Why?
It was because it was set in a gang in modern times, and it just kind of like misses the point of the story.
Well, the concept of it being a gang doesn't necessarily distinguish it really from the original concept in which you have a feud between two houses. But you've got drug usage, got cross-dressing, got homosexuality. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there.
I can now see why.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons we don't use the Baz Luhrmann version in here. But there are a number of others, and I've given you one. Have you had a chance to look at it yet?
Not yet.
Okay, it's in the Romeo and Juliet page. It's linked right there.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I'll try to find more. I do think that for students, one of the best is the Zeffirelli version, which is not available for free online. If you have an opportunity to acquire it somewhere or other, I don't think it's even on Netflix.
But you want to see it.
Yes, I
It
think so.
is just awesome. It's eye candy.
Do you sell it here?
No, but
Oh,
I
okay.
could probably order it for somebody. I can
Well,
probably
I'm
order
suggesting it, but
it. It's good.
yes, it is.
It's good. Frankie Zeffirelli is just, he does the most beautiful.
It really inspired an entire generation.
Yeah.
And it came out on an LP. And that's really
That's
impressive.
Because
And I have it.
if I don't use it, it just stops taking because it's
So,
chopped out of the-
We have a major endorsement for that if you feel like trying to find it. I think I have found a version of it online. I think it's overdubbed in Polish or something. That doesn't help us with the language
Not
at
really.
all.
Nah.
It gives you a feel for the look of the thing.
You could try
When things like that go up on
With
YouTube
the-
that somebody has put a dubbing on, they tend to leave them up there. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and see what our agenda says here. Okay, we did the who is it quiz. The poetic device was put off. We may address that next time. Don't want to have another test. There were some good submitted projects. The didgeridoo, Plato, global warming. Let's look at those. So let's go off and do that. And we looked at parallel universes a bit last time. I don't know if you want more on that subject. There are some excellent speakers on the subject.
If we can throw a few more threads in just to explore
Okay.
a little bit.
Well, let's play around with that a little bit. My point was here that, and this I think is true in generally, specifically of scientific American academics, is that their language is what it is, but it's not acceptable polished English that would go into a paper. And as I put here, the prevailing opinion in this country is that informal speech need not conform to the standards of formal English. And there's one reason American students have so much trouble with it, because they don't hear it. But they will hear it if we listen to the speech of orators who really do use the language the way it should be used. And I'm going to give you more of those. As I mentioned, I've been listening to some wonderful lectures, none of which are terribly appropriate for what we're doing. But, well, I'd have to have special permission, I think, to bring them in. We'll think about that. Okay, let's go over submitted projects, and then we'll talk about Romeo and Juliet, things like that. I think our submitted projects may lead to a lot of interesting discussions. All right, let's look at the end here. This one is air pollution and good thoughts and research.
We covered this last week, didn't
We did, good. Okay, I'm sorry. I ended up pulling things out and wasn't sure. Okay, Nicholas. Very nice paper, one project. Can you bring one to class Thursday? I didn't see you carrying one.
No, these are very hard to find in the States, and they cost a lot of money.
Let me tell you something.
That-
For nice crafted ones, I just remember
Just buy a
in Australia, the last time I was there, my uncle, there was this shop that was closed. We banged on the glass, the ladies opened up, my uncle picked out this yellow didgeridoo, nice. I think it was about 9 feet long. That cost $1,500.
I have no doubt that there are instruments that cost that much, and it's tricky to find good ones, but there are alternatives.
PVC pipe.
PVC, absolutely. PVC, and it works a treat. It just works fine. It doesn't look very nice.
No.
but it does work. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. That has been crafted by the Aboriginal people of Australia. Of course, originally. Now it's made by people in a lot of their places. You can get an Indonesian didgeridoo for much less than an Australian one. So,
Yeah.
and it's still crafted by the Aborigines, just a different set of Aborigines, and requires skill and mastery in order to achieve one's desired outcome. I suggested a desired outcome or a desirable outcome. Not big changes there, really. Didgeridoo may seem complicated to play through spectators' eyes, but it's much simpler than it appears. Simpler than that was your original. And I think it appears improved that a little bit. Okay, this musical instrument, I took out musical because I thought that was obvious, but maybe it's not. That maybe I may have been wrong in that. Of course, it's not a musical instrument in the sense that one would think of it. It's not a melodic instrument. It's a rhythmic instrument.
Yeah.
Okay. I was crafting one of these. It's a long process. First, the wood's collected from a eucalyptus, locally known as a gum tree, that had showed termite activity. This is because the termites eat all of the dead rotten wood, leaving only the young lively wood behind. Yeah, they tend to eat the core out, which makes them hollow. And I think the theory is that at some point the Aborigines would blow through them to try to get the termites out, to eat the termites. And in the process, they discovered that they could make all kinds of interesting noises with them. But I'm not sure that is known to be the case, but it's surmised. Let's see. Now, here's a big a problem or a suggestion that I think is worth remembering. The longer the didgeridoo is, the lower the note it expels. You can say it expels air, but I think you can say it produces a note.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So I think it's hard sometimes to figure out exactly which word is the right one. One may play this instrument using a technique called circular breathing. I changed it to plays, but I'm sorry, there again, you could play it without circular breathing. That's not the way they do it. It's achieved by vibrating one's lips while simultaneously discharging air through the mouth. That's a nice sentence. Actually, by expelling air through the mouth while breathing in through the nose is what's happening when you're doing circular breathing.
Yeah. I couldn't put that because those were the exact words that I got from my source.
Oh, I see. And so you avoided using the exact words.
Yeah, literally.
Don't corrupt the meaning when you when you paraphrase. Yeah. Pixie is saying that the timbre of the note has changed. Okay, that was my suggestion there. In order to achieve the desired note, you really don't change the note. In some tribes would use the didgeridoo and would do an overblow harmonic note, so you'd actually get another note out of it. But not all tribes did that. Let's see, complex. Okay, this is your this is your summary down at the bottom, and I felt it unnecessary to say this again because one is saying it right here, and just to avoid the duplication there. You see what I mean? The didgeridoo became a part. Now, notice what you said here, and tell me what's wrong with this, somebody. Grew a part of Australia's culture.
It doesn't literally grow. So
Well, you can say it became a part. You could say it grew apart, but you can't say it grew apart. The way you're spelling this, apart means asunder. Where if you want to say it grew a part, then it's a space part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you stuck it together.
Yes.
And one may still have the pleasure of witnessing. One may have the pleasure to witness. Now here again, that's a matter of collocation. I think the pleasure of witnessing works better than the pleasure to witness. Just listen to it in your ear.
Okay.
Okay. Now I hate to say this, but I could not resist. I asked you to bring a didgeridoo, and I suspected you wouldn't have one.
No, I didn't want to have it hand, and I looked at how to make them on YouTube, and it's
Yeah.
Is it that
No,
whenever
you're right. They tend to be big. They don't have to be 9 feet long, however. as
yeah,
you can
that's
see.
just the large ones are 3 meters long, and usually about this around.
But this is about the standard size. They actually do make them shorter than this. This is a very nice looking one, but it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
It doesn't sound all that nice, and it took a lot of work to make it playable.
So you made it.
No, I bought it in Australia,
Wow.
but it wasn't playable. And the problem is it's an original piece of wood, and therefore it has cracks and things in it,
Oh.
and that messes it up.
Yeah.
But that was expected when the Aborigines made theirs as well. and they would fix it the same way they make the mouthpiece out of
Beeswax.
beeswax.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so what you would do is blow on it, try to find the cracks and stuff beeswax in them to try to make it work.
How much did
Anyway.
that one cost?
What's that?
How much was that one?
I don't remember, but it wasn't that much. It was less than $50.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh.
the one my uncle got, it was huge. He almost broke
Most
it
of them are
walking
not
into the
that
house.
huge. I mean, people carry these around with them. That's what
Yeah.
this case is all
Though
about.
sometimes if you're walking through the streets in the major cities, Darwin or Sydney, you'll see Aborigine people playing them on the street, and they'll usually have another one. I have this memory of watching this guy play a didgeridoo, and he had a little seat beside with some fur on it, and a guy just walked out of the crowd, sat down, and started playing with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they usually have hats for coins.
And you can often add to it with various percussive instruments and so forth.
Yeah.
And sticks. I'm going to make some noise with this. And let's
I've
see.
never heard
So
one.
let's see what this is.
What's that?
I've never heard or seen of one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You probably heard them, and when
Yeah,
you hear
just
it, you
didn't
probably
realize, yeah.
recognize it.
Did you
It's
knew
been a
they
long time.
existed?
So.
Did you?
No, I've probably seen them before. I'm just.
You want to sustain the sound as much as possible. Then you can do all kinds of things with the timbre of it
Mhm.
by changing the size of what you're doing in your mouth. You can also add things. It's not getting the sound very good. All kinds of interesting things
Yeah.
you could do with it.
That's
I'd like
crazy.
to pass it around, but I don't know whether the rules here would forbid that kind of spreading of germs. Anyway, I enjoyed the concept, and I thought it would be nice to.
This is very cool.
There and look at it. It's a nice instrument. Make a very effective weapon.
Yeah, that's no joke.
Because that is really solid. It's
Yeah,
clear
this
that
is
this one
Very
is
nice.
not one that has been rotting.
Mhm.
This is one that's been hollowed out deliberately. And how will you hollow something like that out? It's obviously not done with power tools because it's not straight.
Yeah.
Termites, right?
What's that?
Termites.
Termites theoretically originally, but then there were other methods that were used by the Aborigines as well, including burning them out. And also they used bamboo. So there were various different ways to do it.
Bamboo would make more sense because it's hollow and then just at some parts.
Right, but they
Yeah.
would have to
Mhm.
punch through the between the culms. You have the
little
yeah.
plates. Yeah.
I can't see.
Yeah.
You may
Yeah.
actually find creatures living in there.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of spiders.
it's been sitting around a while.
Just spiders listening to music.
Yeah. I wonder what it sounds like for them.
It's probably really loud.
Okay, very nice. I'd like to try to take things that evince interest in the class and run with them if that's possible. And so, I can't resist jumping into something like this. But I need also suggestions if you come up with things that you would like to explore further, especially things that we'll find really excellent speakers talking about and excellent writers writing about. So let's experiment with this. Okay, we've got another nice little paragraph. This, however, is a good response to an unusual inquiry or request.
Yeah.
It's not really general purpose, but it could be general purpose.
Yeah, it was like a general purpose to answer any kind of question. Sort of
Mhm.
thing.
Very good, very good. Okay, little things here. I can say that. Normally, you wouldn't have a comma between the say and the that.
Okay.
Okay, but you might well have a comma after that, because you might say that, comma, once I realized what was taking place, comma, I became elated. You see what I mean? So that one, we could certainly set off with commas.
Okay.
This is why I have decided to make the road to take the road less traveled, an old cliche, but a recognizable, usable one. And road less traveled, I think you put a period there and said, I've also taken into account that while there is a possibility that I may be mistaken, it is with great faith that I believe this to be the best course of action. I felt that was a lot of verbiage which was unnecessary. See if this means the same thing. I hope I haven't corrupted your original idea. And while I may be mistaken, it is with great faith that I believe this to be the best course of action.
Yeah, that still makes sense.
Okay. Now, the great faith, I'm not so sure of. There may be better with, I can say with utter confidence or something like that. You see what I mean? Okay, any questions on that one? It's nicely done. I apologize also with these all-purpose paragraphs. It was my intent to come up with a few of these and post them up there for you to borrow and modify, but I'm afraid I just haven't got it done. Okay, Azariah, very good. We're talking here about global warming. Very nice work. Your writing is solid, but for a few points. Your conclusions reflect those of the majority of scientists. There are some who are less convinced. Is this a subject we should consider studying? Just some thoughts. I always think it's a good idea to question received opinion. Received opinion means that which is generally regarded as the mainstream. It's certainly worthy of question, but most of the time you're going to find that received opinion is right, because for good reason. But still, one should question it. And then here you say global warming is a term that's used freely. Well, possibly freely may be the right word, but I'm not sure whether profusely, extensively, excessively might be closer to what you were meaning. It has especially reverberated in recent years. I like the reverberated. That's global warming is the gradual increase. I think refers to would work there better. You've seen the comments on this already, haven't you? Okay, good. Okay. Much effort has been given to the stop global warming. Well, that I know is a typo. You couldn't have read through that and left it. So much effort has been made to stop global warming. I think you make an effort to do something more than you give an effort. Okay, and then here, it does look here as though you spelled this having heard someone say it without having seen it on the page. And so infrared is the word you were looking for, I believe, right? Okay. Tyndall proposition has since been proven right. Now, we needed to have the possessive put on this. If it's actually eponymous, in other words, this proposition is named after Tyndall, then we could say it that way. But then we'd have to have an article in front of it. The Tyndall proposition, you see, something like that. Okay, this nicely put here. If this trend in higher temperature continues, tropical storms are likely to bring higher speeds, more precipitation, and bigger storm surge in the coming decades. I think the surges needs to have a plural on it there. Yeah. But that's very nice. Why did I like that sentence so much, somebody?
Because of the
The-
three.
Yeah.
Very good. Exactly. Exactly. 3 is the ideal number. You'll see it over and over again in all of the works of the greatest speakers.
I have a question.
Yes.
If 3 can work, why can't 4 work?
This is a very good question. It leads me to think about interesting numbers. And we can talk about interesting numbers sometime. 1 is definitely an interesting number. 2 is interesting because, well, it's right next to 1. 3 is interesting because it's right next to
And
2.
it's the
This
magic number.
okay. So we expand indefinitely. 3 does seem to be the appropriate number for this and for a number of other things as well. If you use 4, you dilute it somewhat, and you don't really have anything that's as powerful. Now, one place you find this more poignant is in musical composition. In musical composition, you can have what's called a sequence. You say, but then you can't do it again.
Yep.
That's against the rules. And 3 does seem to be the ideal number. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm not sure I can answer any better than that, but it's clear that, that our ears want it that way.
Okay.
Okay, nicely done. Okay, any questions on this one? Okay, this one, knowledge and virtue. I'm not really sure I understood where you were going with it, but you've been reading some interesting things, and maybe you can clarify a little bit and also correct some of my spelling here. Okay. Okay. Plato was easily one of the greatest philosophers of all time. In fact, he's often regarded as the greatest, largely because the other greats, including Aristotle, were influenced so much by him. Let's see how you put it here. Through 347 for the Christian epoch, had fabricated a series of social standard changes, those of which would foster an impact on modern day thinking. I had a lot of trouble reading through that sentence. And so I suggested something here, probably one of many things that one could have done. Fabrication, you're absolutely right. It originally comes from the verb to make something. Indeed, fabrique is what one calls where do you manufacture things? A factory.
Factory.
In a number of languages. So
Fabrics.
indeed it comes from making things. But in English, the word fabricated has tended to acquire the meaning of putting something together that doesn't really deserve to be put together. He fabricated a response, this theory is fabricated out of whole cloth. In other words, somebody made it up. And so I'm not sure we want to use that. I think generated works a little better there, or constructed. A series of social standard changes. We're talking here about changes in societal manipulation, right? I suggested perhaps concepts, but indeed you're talking about changing those that had previously existed, which was to have an impact. In other words, I've made this into a sentence which I think pulls together nicely, but I'm not sure it's faithful to your original meaning.
I think it is still. It still gives the same message, just different words.
Yeah. So he fabricated a series of social changes, and this fabrication was to have an impact on modern day thinking. Plato's life had a specifically huge impact. Okay, and rebound to a period of social, intellectual, and you've got a nice triplet there, and political changes that played a major role in Greece's awareness of social systems. Now, we don't need that had. In fact, it really doesn't work.
Okay.
And the reason we don't need it is you're not talking about multiple places in the past and putting one thing further past than another. When you do, that's when you need the had, when you need to go in past perfect. But simple past is all we need here. Okay. However, before Plato, Greece had a very close-minded and seemingly selfish way of living. Sounded to me better than about living. Ignorance to all and any other forms of life. Ignorance, if you look it up, you'll find that ignorance of definitely outnumbers ignorance to. Okay, and the last part of that is his challenging of people's belief that made him who he is, and the legend is still, and the legend that is still remembered today. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, here's one of the problems. Debated between sophists and debated among sophists. What's the difference between among and between?
Well,
what?
Is between
Yeah.
commonly with two people?
Exactly. Strictly speaking, between should only be used when you have two people. If it's more, it should be among. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why you shifted into present tense. That seems, which is the view that states pleasure is intrinsically delightful and that pain is intrinsically unpleasant, rather avoided. And the goal of life is for one to achieve pleasure and, is that resilience? As opposed to pain. Yeah. Now, we see more of this in the workings of Epicurus later on, and that one is really interesting to look at. Now, what I found fascinating here was that we had a lot of problems up here at the beginning, but I didn't see a lot in here at all. It seems to improve. I'd only read straight through it, but it seems to work very nicely. And here, wretched idiot, I think, is clearly what was really meant. Wretched idiots, I think I Googled that and found 3 examples of it. So there are 3 people in the world who mistyped it.
I don't particularly remember putting that in.
I'm sorry?
That may have been an autocorrect.
Because
on my phone.
Interesting point. No, that's very possible.
Yeah.
It's I don't trust your autocorrect.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a couple of standard deviations outside the norm of writing. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're referring to ancient things or unusual things, the autocorrect is going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Encephalon. Okay. You know what? It's the Greek, of course, for cranium. But do you know what Alexander the Great's horse was named?
Assuming. Assuming.
Assuming.
Encephalon.
Close. It was Bucephalus. Was what it was called, which means sheep-headed, literally, sheep-headed. But indeed, the encephalon
Well, that
is
makes
a cognate
sense.
of the same thing.
Sheep-headed.
To a horse, though?
To us, it makes
They're pretty
sense,
smart.
right? Yeah. Does make sense to us? Are we sheep-headed?
Well,
horse.
Like, are we talking?
I don't know. Yeah.
Are we talking literally or?
well, whether it looked like a sheep's head, I really don't know.
Yeah.
That's where the
Yeah.
word derived. And then it was borrowed from all kinds of other things. So of course, my My daughter's rocking horse was named Bucephalus. Baron von Munchausen's horse was named Bucephalus. Everybody sort of named their steed Bucephalus. Okay. And here we have all of Romeo and Juliet, in case we want to go ahead and read it. But I don't think that reading a play is the best way to learn it. It certainly helps to have the text there so you can look things up, figure out how it's spelled, search things. Can you believe it? This is a strange thing about our age to remember. I was giving a talk on Shakespeare many years ago, somewhere in the 70s. That's many years for you folks, but and I relied heavily upon a concordance. What is a concordance? I'm sure you've come across this.
I've heard of it.
I've heard of it too.
A bank of words.
It is, in a way, a bank of words from a specific source. And the two major concordances one would find in any library, one is for the Bible, and the other one is for Shakespeare.
Bible.
And what you can do with a concordance is look up any word, and it will tell you everywhere that that word appears in that work. And so it's very useful for doing research. You don't need it anymore. It's absolutely you need a concordance the way you need a slide rule. It's become a different world altogether. Anyway, here we have Romeo and Juliet, the Romeo and Juliet page. This is not a bad production here. Now, of course, you hear the way I say that. It's a good production, in fact, that in the sense that it has all of the words. It doesn't necessarily sparkle. It doesn't. There's one that came out a couple of years later, whose Tybalt was played by oh crumbs! He just died last week.
Oh.
Yes.
Was it Bowie?
Mm-hmm.
No, the other one who died last week.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah, last week was kind of like a movie star.
Severus Snape. I can't
Oh,
remember
yeah.
who played him.
Oh,
He-
man.
Yeah.
Right. Now that one, we may be able to find it somewhere.
He died last week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He died like a couple days
What's
after.
his name?
Where do you guys find this information?
I
Just
I
on the
saw it on,
news.
yeah, on
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah, it's like-
actually.
The
Yeah,
guy
it's
who played
everywhere.
Snape has passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But what's his name?
I'm
I
searching.
forgot.
He wasn't that old. How old was he?
I think he was in his 60s. If I
He
remember
looked a
correctly.
lot younger than he actually was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in Deathly Hallows, which wasn't too long ago, he looked all right.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't remember. I got ill from too. Anyway, he plays Tybalt, and a lot of people like that one just because go back and
Alan
see
Rickman.
Alan Rickman. Thank you. And that's a wonderful thing about our current age too, that you
Yeah.
can bang just pull that
Don't have to go to the library.
out of the ether, so to speak, to be rather ancient in one's physics metaphors. Okay, that one is 2 parts, and it's split in the middle. It's a decent one. This one is another one, 1982. I don't remember anything about that one. Truth. Then we have the one that I recommended to you and Carolyn recommended is the Franco Zeffirelli one, which was 1968. Zeffirelli. And that one is superb. There have been other wonderful ones as well. And a lot of these, you can find them all out there online. They're not going to be in YouTube. They're not going to be in places where copyright is respected, but there are plenty of places where copyright isn't respected. So I leave that up to you. So let's make sure to look at that next time. Just a little bit of review here for our test next week. We have let's do the review this way. We have the different types of poetic feet Now, the poetic feet, the vast majority are going to be simply two of them. And the vast majority of those are going to be just one. And that one is, anybody?
Monometer.
No, that you're talking about length of line.
Yeah.
I'm talking about type of foot.
Iambic.
Yeah.
Iambic. Yeah, iambic. Shakespeare is almost all iambic. There are exceptions.
Mhm.
Double, toil and trouble is not iambic. That's trochaic. But trochaic is the other one
Mhm.
because those are the two types of feet.
The rising, right?
Right, the rising and the falling one.
Mhm.
And those are the two that have only two syllables in them. And there are only two ways to have an accented and an unaccented syllable if you have only two syllables, one way or the other. So that's the vast majority. And then we have the three-syllable feet. And the most common of those are the ones with the accent in the first one or the accent in the last one.
Mhm.
And the one with the accent in the first one is
Anapestic, I believe.
other way around. What's the opposite of anapestic?
Dactyl.
Very
Oh,
good.
yeah,
Dactylic.
yeah.
Dactylic. Yeah. It doesn't really work this way, but you can make it work in your head to say that an iamb has the accent on the second syllable, a trochee has the accent on the first syllable, and an anapest has the accent on the last syllable, and a dactyl or dactylic has the emphasis on the first syllable.
Mhm.
Now that's just a quick memory aid, but it's nice and easy to do. And then we have a couple of others which I'm not going to ask you about because you don't hit them that often. But we have the amphibrach, which isn't really even in this this listing here, and that's unaccented, accented, unaccented. Now it's hard to distinguish if you've got dot 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 dot. It suddenly becomes dactylic or anapestic. But there are some in which the words make it very clear that you have this da 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 da, very much sort of a galloping horse.
Yeah, bouncing.
Yeah.
If wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. Is one example of that. Okay, length of line. Somebody want to just give me the whole set of them?
I know there's
You gave me monometer.
Oh, monometer,
Diameter.
Diameter,
trimeter,
and the tetrameter,
Tetrameter.
Tetrameter.
That one changes the emphasis.
heptameter, hexameter,
Right.
It's,
Tetrameter,
Pent is 5. So
pentameter,
pentameter,
Pentameter.
hep,
Hex.
hexameter,
hex
and
is 6,
and
yeah.
heptameter, 7.
7, yeah.
So remember 7.
Heptameter.
Octameter.
Octameter.
Yeah.
Now the
What's 10?
Do people even use
Diameter.
10?
Yeah, I don't think it's.
decimeter, perhaps.
Yeah.
So would have to. I can't think of anybody who uses 10, but 7 is used because it's a common to have 4 than 3, and I've given you examples. Okay, and the other one we need. Molossus I didn't mention, but that's all right. It's not important. The spondee and the molossus they're weird because the rule is generally each foot has one accented syllable in it. And the molossus and the spondee break that rule in that you have 2 accented syllables in the spondee and you've got 3 in the molossus.
Mhm.
But there are examples of them, and so we need a word for them. What was the third one I was going to ask? Oh, yes. How long is the stanza? If we have stanzas consisting of 2 lines, they are.
I forgot what stanza it
A
is.
couplet.
Couplet.
That's
Oh,
2
yeah.
lines
Mhm.
linked together. And if we have 4 lines, it's. I had it in my head a moment ago.
Quadrant.
Quatrain. Thank you. Very good. And 3 lines, much less common. 3 lines, the tercet, Tercet. This is one that Lewis Carroll really enjoyed, and I must say he did wonderful things with it, because your mind is used to couplets. You're used to having one thing rhyme with another, and then go on to have another one rhyme with another, and the concept of having a third one each time, especially when the third one is better than the second one, really it was a very powerful feature. I weep for you, the walrus said, I deeply sympathize, while mid sobs and tears he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. It's just, you get this extra unexpected third one. Okay. Okay, so you're going to know all of those for next week. Back to our agenda, see what else we have to look at here. And indeed, one of our biggest challenges is going to be deciding where to go and what to look at. This is a scene, of course, from the Franco Zeffirelli Romeo and Juliet. And, oh yes, I did add a page on Plato to the classroom. Has anybody looked at that at all? I'm not sure how much interest it will have, but what I find when I look at it is sort of just strange set of ideas. This republic that he came up with, this how best to govern people. And some of the precepts he comes up with, for one thing, exactly what is seen and read and heard by children should be absolutely dictated, and they should not be allowed to listen to certain modes of music or read the works of Homer, because there are various undesirable things there. And I look at that and say, okay, in our modern sense, this is just so terribly foreign. Especially, I feel that you should be allowed to study everything. Porn gets old fast. There are so many other things that are much more inspired, but with an open bookshelf, with an open internet, there's so much you can do with it. Now, that may be something that's worthy of discussing and worthy of debate, perhaps. And indeed, you've seen that I censor things to some extent simply because I know what some parents are likely to say if I were to give you the Baz Luhrmann version of Romeo and Juliet. You see what I mean? But still, that makes things very strange. Also, the concept of taking children away from their parents immediately when they're born, so that they don't know who their parents are. Well, in some countries they do that kind of thing, but we would regard that as utterly abominable. On the other hand, his concept of who should rule the nation is an interesting one. Of course, he's talking about a hereditary elite, but it's a hereditary elite who own nothing. They don't have an empire. They're not building an empire. Their entire purpose for existence is to rule well and not to rule with selfish motives. That's something that's never really been implemented anywhere, as far as I know. And all of the guardians should be philosophers. Okay, interesting requirement. Wouldn't it be nice to have people in that role who are at least intelligent? They don't necessarily have to be philosophers, but they have to be able to, should at least demonstrate a certain intellectual capacity. And we have no lower bar for that, as has been so clearly demonstrated recently if you've watched the debates. Okay. Okay, next week, poetic scansion. Has anybody looked at this exploration nonsense? It's just a number of things I threw up there.
Yeah, briefly.
Any thoughts on it? Should I take it and just shelve it?
I mean,
I
I'll
didn't
look
see
at
it.
who else has seen
Yeah,
it?
I
Okay.
Yeah.
I threw it up there simply because I was going through things from the old classroom and trying on which deserves to be salvaged, and it looked like that one perhaps might have been one. Okay. And then after we look at these, and I'm assuming we do want to look at Hamlet, or at Romeo and Juliet, and we've got Hamlet, and we've got Pygmalion sitting out there, any of which can simply be jettisoned altogether. This, by the way, is an unusual case of having an entire book that I've recommended for your use, which is out there. The Ode Less Traveled is not just an analysis of poetry. Poetry lends itself to analysis. There's so many classes on analyzing poetry, and so many of these so effectively kill the fascination with poetry. And so analysis is not necessarily a good thing. It's you read a poem that is inspired, and certainly you want to do something with it. You want to share it with people. You want to teach it. But the more you pick it apart, the more you tend to destroy the poem itself. And so I'm not sure that analysis is necessarily a good way to look at it. The Ode Less Traveled is a delightfully different approach. It's here's how to make yourself into a poet. Here's the exercises to do. Let's see if you can put together 5 iambic pentameter lines. They don't have to rhyme or anything. Just see if you could do it. There's so many people, some of whom call themselves poets, who haven't the foggiest notion how to take words and put them into scansion. And he takes you through a process of learning that from the first steps, and then applying it to many other things as well. It's a beautifully done book, and I went through the hard copy many times. Okay, I think we have. Let's talk about Romeo and Juliet. Let's see if I got. Do I have more over here on the left or not? Okay, nothing specific over there. That's the end of our classroom, I think. What was that? That was the test. Okay. All right. What do we know about Romeo and Juliet?
Not too much.
It's amazing how much Shakespeare came up with within a very short period of time. This is a fairly early play. And one of the things to understand about Shakespeare is he was such a word master, but he didn't really make things up. He used existent plots for almost everything he did. There are a few minor exceptions, but he stole the stories. Now, in some cases, he didn't steal very good versions of the stories. And in some cases, as was the case here, he took a bad translation from an Italian source and used that and missed some of the wonderful concepts that were actually in the original story. One of which was that am I giving anything away if I say that they die in the end?
No, I think we all know that.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the versions, the original version, actually has Juliet taking, Romeo taking poison, and Juliet wakes up before he dies. And you have a long scene in which they know that they've got only half an hour together before he's going to die. I mean, that lends itself to some other dramatic potentials, which Shakespeare didn't take advantage of because he had a lousy translation in front of him and didn't see the whole story. Anyway, what is going on here? Where is it set?
It's set in Italy.
Set in Italy. What part of Italy?
Verona.
Verona. Where is Verona?
I think it's in northern Italy, but I'm not really sure.
You're absolutely right. It is in northern Italy. And the only other city that's actually mentioned is Mantua, which is where Romeo goes when he's in exile. And you continue on from Mantua, you get to Venice. So it's up in that area at the very north end of the Adriatic. Although Verona is entirely inland. Okay. Except for Verona Beach. Where does Verona Beach occur? Okay, that's in the Baz Luhrmann version. They set it on the beach, but they called it Verona Beach. And you couldn't help thinking it was a lot like Venice Beach in certain ways. Okay, so we have the background of the story itself. I'm sure some of you have watched a little of it already, but we have this peculiar chorus who comes out. A single person, sometimes more than one, but a single person called a chorus. An odd concept there in itself, who gives us the background.
All the Romeo and Juliet information is on the Romeo and Juliet page, right?
Yes, if we go to the Romeo and Juliet page, you will see links to all kinds of reference material. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, right here. Those are video versions, and I don't remember what's in there. Here's the online text. Here's the Wikipedia link to Shakespeare and the Wikipedia link to Romeo and Juliet. And this is an audiobook version of it that you can download. Generally, I find that LibriVox is just a good source for a nice little collection of links like this. So I just take the LibriVox material there. Okay, so we have the chorus starting the thing out. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge spring to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, two star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows do with their deaths bury their parents' strife. Okay, this tells us pretty much all the way what's the point of staying for the play. We know what's going on here. But indeed, that was known long before, and Shakespeare stole the plot. I don't know how well that plot was known in Elizabethan England at the time, but certainly he didn't make anything up. But the language is just so superb. The chorus goes on a bit and explains that, and that's what's going to happen on our stage for the next couple of hours. So we have these two houses, the Capulets and the Montagues, and we never do learn why they hate each other. They have been at odds for a long time, and it's not just old Capulet and old Montague. It's their entire households, and each one of them has a vast household full of relatives and servants, and all of the servants are just as faithful to their house, so to speak, as the relatives are. And indeed, that's how it starts. We've got some Montague servants and some Capulet servants who run into each other in the marketplace. And they started off, and then some of Capulet's relatives arrive, and some of Montague's relatives arrive, and it becomes, it doesn't become a conflagration. Why? What does the word conflagration mean?
A conflict?
If it did, then that would have worked. The conflagration is often used to mean that. It means a fire. And that's really all it means. And so people tend to think that a conflict is a conflagration, but it isn't anyway. So indeed, we have a conflict in Verona's streets, And it comes to an end when the guard of the prince arrives and breaks it up. And in the process, Capulet has come down to join the fray, and Montague is gone and got out his old broadsword and has come down to join the fray. And then the prince speaks to them and tells them, okay, that's enough of this. And then he threatens Capulet and Montague both that their lives shall pay the forfeit if the Verona streets are again bloodied. And then the prince at the very end has a wonderful speech in which he berates himself for not having acted sooner. And I, for winking at your discords, too, have lost a brace of kinsmen. Which is interesting. He actually says that in this version of the play, although Zeffirelli cuts out the scene in which one of those kinsmen dies, so you can't help wondering, who's this brace of kinsmen she's talking about? Zeffirelli didn't leave that scene in the play. The Zeffirelli version is severely cut. There are lots of things taken out, but he did a wonderful job of taking out things that didn't really matter. And indeed, a lot of things in Shakespeare, when you realize how quickly he whacked these things together, some things just weren't all that wonderfully considered when they were put together. The beginning of Taming of the Shrew, for example, we've got this odd little scene of a drunk who comes on stage, and a bunch of people decide to play a trick on him, and that's about all there is. You can't help thinking, Shakespeare said, oh, I've got this fellow, I've got to find some sort of small part for him. What am I going to do? Let's whack something together. So some things, and indeed cutting out the death of Paris, I think actually improved it. But then that's something that could be debated, and it might even be sacrilegious to say such things. So we are going to jump into this one for next week, right? Okay, and we will, do you want to, can we go ahead and just, can I go ahead and ask you to watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. And
Are we going to have a quiz on it?
Would you like a quiz on it? I'll give you a Who Is quiz. Who Is quiz with the big ones in it.
Okay.
Did we add up the scores for the test?
One more time.
The test for 12th night. Did we add up the scores on that?
Oh yeah.
Well, you've got the scores right there.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I am going to be posting your updated grade sheets,
Okay.
so you can just see it up
Yeah,
there.
that's what I was wondering.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just a matter of interest for you folks. I know you've all got conflicts here at the after this class. Have we run over already? We haven't really. Well, not really.
A little bit.
Okay, great. Bringing the class to an end.